Hey, welcome to Structure Fishing. I'm going to do a series of videos about every month, try to at least every month, on just talking about a lake. Fishing report, just things I know about the lake help you catch some more fish. Not saying I'm an expert on any of these lakes, but I'm just going to show you, we're going to look at maps. I'm going to just give some general information about the lake. And today's lake, as you can see here, is Clinton Lake. It's in Clinton, Illinois. Let me, first off, anyone that fishes lakes in Illinois, go to the ifishillinois.org website, places to fish, click on lakes and reservoirs, and you can start, as I call it, pre-fishing, get some information about the lake. And this is going to tell you mostly stocking information is what I'm interested in. Let me click on Clinton Lake here. It's alphabetically. There we go. And gives you it gives you fishing outlook information here. I take that with a grain of salt because a lot of times it's just their rough guess based on past shockings and surveys they did. It's not 100% accurate, but it might give you a little general idea. It's got blue catfish is average, crappie is excellent, wipers is good, largemouth excellent, walleye good, white bass fair. Um, I would pretty much agree with all this. I really don't fish the lake for largemouth bass, or I haven't had much success with adult fish or schools of adult fish. Walleye fishing, I'd probably say would be fair to good. Wipers, I would agree with good. Yeah, so anyway, something new in Illinois, they just started doing about 6, 7 months ago, is they finally are giving us stocking information. You can see where it says right here, additional information for stocking. Click on that, and it will give you the history back to 2010, what they've stocked. And you can see pretty much every year this lake has received stockings of walleyes and wipers, which is a cross between striped bass and a white bass. And occasionally you get black crappies in there, and they've been stocking smallmouth in there, and occasionally largemouth. And more recent years, they've been stocking blue catfish in here. So it's always good to see what the stocking program's like, to see if it's what the population may be like. So you can check out that. And now the next thing we're going to check out is Navionics. This lake really isn't mapped out by Navionics. I've got it here. You can click on here. Most people know how to use Navionics, but if you don't, click on the little symbol here, and you'll get the option for Navionics and sonar charts. I've got it on Navionics now, which is just showing the basic contour map. And you can click it on sonar charts, and it will show you an HD map, but many times it's misleading. Sometimes it's truly mapped HD, which means 1 foot contours, and some other times they just interpolate the basic contour data, which is usually 5 foot contours, and they interpret that data and guess what they think it would be like. And it's not a true map. This lake here is more or less a hybrid of the two. Some areas were mapped probably by users sending in their data, and the areas where they didn't get data from users, they just interpolated that data and guessed at it. So um, I would say it's not a very good Navionics map for this lake. I'd probably give it 2 shells out of a 5 shell rating. But I would suggest to interpret this map, I would recommend just going to the basic Navionic map, which is, I think, 5 foot contours here. Yeah, you can see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc. This map, I think, is more helpful. You can sort of see where the basic structures are, and the most important thing is you can see where the original main channel is. And when you're fishing a reservoir or man-made lake, the home of the fish is going to be this channel. So this channel is going to be a good guide. Let me go back to the map view here. Talk about this. Clinton Lake is a cooling lake for a nuclear power plant right here. I'm not sure when it opened up. Maybe in the late 70s, something like that. But it's a cooling lake to cool the reactors of the nuclear power plant here. The intake is here. It gets heated up by the reactors, and the hot water discharge comes out here and comes out here. So here's your cooling loop. The hot water comes out here, and it flows over here all the way down by the dam and then up the west arm and then back in the intake here. Based on other cooling lakes I fish, this lake really doesn't get as hot temperature-wise as other lakes such as Braidwood or Coffeen Lake that I fish in Illinois. Um, for the most part, and it does have a pretty big cooling effect. Uh, for example, if the discharge here is say 95 degrees, by the time you get to the intake, it's pretty much the same temperature as surrounding lakes. It cools off fairly quick. I typically fish this lake when I'm on my way back from a trip further south, such as Shelbyville. And for example, if Shelbyville's water temperature is 75 degrees, I come over here, and by the intake, it's pretty much 75, 78. It's pretty much the same water temperature as the surrounding lakes. But if you come over here where the hot water discharge size is, you're going to get anywhere from a 20, 25 degree rise in temperature. Now, I primarily fish this lake for walleyes and wipers, and blue cats, as it turns out. And those species, walleyes and wipers, are migratory species, which means in the spring of the season, they're going to be up towards the headwaters, and as the season progresses, they're going to migrate down and be at the lower end of the lake here. So when I'm fishing this lake early in the season, I'm concentrated more on the upper end of this reservoir, which happens to be pretty much a hot side too. Uh, and there's an excellent structure right at this bridge over here that I would say it's best, great fish in there for wipers and big blue catfish, as well as occasional walleye and even some largemouth bass here too. And I'm typically, that pattern is usually good till about early mid-May, and then the fish are pretty much out of there and they're migrating down to the bottom half or in the west end of the reservoir here. But let's take a look. One other thing I mentioned here. Let's say I'm no big expert in Clinton Lake, but I fish enough times where I'm pretty knowledgeable about the lake. I've been fishing here since probably 1993 or 94. That's the first year I had my boat. And I stopped fishing it for many years. I fished it all the way up until 2001 when 9/11 occurred. After 9/11 occurred, they were all, everyone was afraid that the terrorists might target nuclear plants. So one of the best structures on the lake is right at the intake here. Matter of fact, let me show you on the back on the Navionics map here, because it is shown in Navionics here. When they built the reservoir, they wanted a backup, an emergency plan that if the dam over here at the bottom here would ever collapse or fail, they wanted to make sure they always had some water at the intake here to keep the reactor cool. So what they did is they built a dike over here to trap the water in here. So if the dam did fail under some catastrophe or emergency, they would always have water here. So you got a man-made dike here, which is a great structure. It tops off at about 14, 15 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And it drops down to about 20, 22 feet. And then you have another man-made dike in the center here. And it's pretty much just as it's shown here, this dotted line here. And what that is a separation. So if they did have to use this emergency area here, they would have some separation. So they would probably have an intake here and a discharge here. So they would have some flow in here to give the reactor time, I guess, to cool off. But after 9/11, they had a buoy line. Let me go to maps here. They had the buoy line is right over here. So you can fish probably 75% of this one dike over here, and you can fish this entire dike over here. When I came to this lake just after 9/11 occurred, which is in 2002, they moved the buoy line to, if you zoom in, yeah, you can see it right here. They moved the buoy line to here, and you cannot go past that buoy line. So I got pretty ticked off about it, and I actually stopped fishing the lake for many years because this was my favorite summertime structure. A friend of mine told me last year that he was out here, and he said that the buoy line is here, but now instead of do not enter, they changed these buoys to say no wake. So now you can get back here and fish these submerged dikes again, and you can go as far as the original buoy line right over here. So when I heard that, I said, "Wow, that's great news." So I started fishing it again. And actually, let me show you a picture. I'm going to pull up over here. When I fished it for the first time last year, it was a slow day. We only got two fish off these dikes. One was a little dink walleye, and one was this 27-inch walleye right here. It's a pretty bad picture, but trust me, it's a 27-inch walleye, and that came off the dike over here. So great structure. And those structures are commonly used in the summer for walleyes and the wipers. So I'm just going to go over the Navionics really quick and tell you some of the structures that I like. Now, I haven't fished this entire lake. There's a lot of places that are probably very productive. I just haven't hit yet. But once again, I start in the early months, which would be pretty much the month of April and early May, up here towards the headwaters, fishing the structures I find over here. This causeway here. There's a submerged roadbed. It's not shown on the map, but it's over here if you find it. And then I work my way down. But I'm just going to show you some of the structures that I like or have been productive for me. You have this is a good structure here. You can see you got the main channel comes across, and you've got this bar created over here. You even probably have a shallow hump over here, and you got some fingers and points over here. A friend of mine, Bob, a few years ago, we fished this, caught a really nice largemouth bass. I can't remember the exact weight, but it was over 5 pounds. I think it was like 5.5 pound fish. Really nice bass. So this is a good structure for bass. I'm sure you get wipers and some walleyes over there too. Go further down over here. I haven't spent a lot of time over here, but this is a very interesting area. I always want to spend time here and try to map it out. But you've got the main channel over here. You got a bar coming out over here, and you've got some. The map doesn't show, but you've got some deeper holes and slots over here, and it's definitely an area to check out over here. I haven't spent much time there, but I think that this is worth checking out if you decide to fish the lake. The dam, you've got trolling water over here, is Buck would call it. Every now and then, if it's a slow day, I'll just see if there's anything along the riprap. One of the second largest walleyes I ever caught did come right about the center of the riprap here several years ago. I think it was like a 6.5 pounder. But those are just going to be mostly straggler fish. I'm not going to expect to find a school of fish over here. There is a hump that's shown on the map here out in the center of the lake, but it's I would say it's a dead-end structure. I mean, you've got flats between that and the main channel. I wouldn't expect to find any schools of fish on there, just an occasional straggler or smaller fish. You're not really going to find schools of larger fish there. But over here, you have a nice structure over here. You look at this standard definition map, it'd tell you that there might be something here. You can sort of see that there's probably a feeder cut that goes back here, back into this cove here, and it created. You got a bar here, and a bar here, and you got a hump on the end of this bar here. And this is a very small structure, but it's worth checking out. I've caught. I should say, friends of mine have caught walleyes, nice walleyes, and wipers off this thing. But it's a very small structure, so you're not going to have a lot of fish on it, but it's worth checking out. You'll get occasional fish on it. Then you go further up the west end over here. Right here is another good structure. You've got the main channel comes across here, and you got this shoreline here. Comes out to a really shallow bar, and then it drops off. What's not shown on this map here, there's also a road. This roadbed goes in here, goes across and around, but you've got a lot of a structure situation right here. And a friend of mine many years ago, that used to live in Decatur, a spoon plugger. This is going back, 30 plus years ago. This was one of his favorite structures. He's caught a lot of really big wipers there. I've never really caught anything there, but it's a structure situation. You need to check it out. And then right here is another good structure situation. You can pretty much guess where you're going to have like a feeder cut. Here's the main channel is probably pretty accurately shown, but you can see you got a cut here, so you got to believe that there's probably going to be a feeder cut coming out over here, and that's a migration path for the fish. And so you've got a bar over here, and this bar is going to be pretty good. Matter of fact, the video I'm going to show you at the end of this is I was catching wipers off this bar here. In the past, I've caught this bar has been very productive for wipers and walleyes. Um and you've got mostly on this side, and you can come around, and there's points over here. You can sort of see on the map here, this bar goes all the way to the main channel over here. To be honest with you, I just haven't spent a lot of time here, but I would not pass this up. This would be probably a good contact point for this bar as well too. I say there's a lot of spots out here that should be very productive, but I just haven't got around to fishing them. I'm catching fish in all these other areas. There's still a lot, as often as I fish this lake, there's still a lot for me to still explore on this lake. And then this was the buoy line when they moved it back here. But now, like I said, this is just all these buoys now say no wake, and the buoys now are back over here. But as far as classification, I would say this is a deep flat land reservoir. But your key to fishing this thing is going to be find structures that are associated with the main channel or a side feeder creek channel. One other thing I did not talk about, I want to touch base really quickly, are the launches. You have two main launch facilities on this lake. One is called the West Side Access, which is on the west side over here, and then you have another launch facility which is in the state park area, which is right down here. This is a much better launch. You can see that the launch is right here and the parking lot's right there. You've got docks. You can park your boat. Especially nice if you're by yourself. It's easy to pull your boat up over here, then walk back over here and park your car. You also have a bait shop and a boondock grill if you want to get a bite to eat. I stopped in here earlier this year for the first time and got a bite to eat. Very friendly people there. Food was pretty good, especially for a place like this. I recommend going in there. It was pretty nice. So you have this launch here. Then you have the West Side launch. For many years, all I did was use the West Side launch, but I actually recommend this launch over here because it's and it's not that far of a boat run. It's like maybe 10-minute boat ride to get to the west side if you're fishing the west side. This west launch isn't too bad if you're with somebody. If you're by yourself, it could be a little bit of a pain in the butt for two reasons. The parking lot's way up here. You got to walk down, which means if you're by yourself, you got to launch the boat. They got a little tiny dock here, and hopefully there's no one, no other boat to. Then you got to park your vehicle and walk back down. But the problem with this launch is it's not protected. You get any kind of southwest wind, it's going right into this boat ramp, and it could make launching quite a pain, especially if you're by yourself. If you're by yourself, I would not recommend really using this launch unless it's a pretty calm day and you're there in the middle of the week maybe. But if I had my preference, the launch at the park over here is much better. That's a quick recap of Clinton Lake. I plan on doing several more of these reviews, call them, if you want to call it a review of a lake. Like I said, I've been fishing this thing on and off for, 30 years, like 28 years at least. And during that time I fished it, it's been pretty productive for walleyes. It's not the kind of lake I'm going to go out there and expect to catch unlimited walleyes. You'll get 2 or 3. I think the best I ever did on one trip was 3, maybe 4 walleyes. But usually you can expect to get a couple of walleyes. You can usually expect to get a few more wipers. I think you got a much better chance of catching wipers than you do walleyes. And I hear it's got a pretty good bass population. I just haven't spent time chasing the bass on here or fishing structures that are bass. There were a couple of guys in our club many years ago that fished this east arm, if you want to call it, northeast arm, during the summer, and they did really good found a lot of schools of bass up here. And if I was fishing that area over there, you can see that the further north you go, towards the headwaters you go in the reservoir, it's going to get shallower. So without a doubt, the home of the fish is going to be in this main channel here. So if I was fish, put up with that, but this is no wake over here, so you don't have to worry about that if you're fishing the man-made dikes over here. But that's my quick review and breakdown of Clinton Lake. And like I said, I'm going to do several more of these. I'm going to try to do at least one a month. And I'm going to do it on lakes that I fished before and even lakes that I have not fished. quick example. I'm just going to go over talk about in some future videos how to interpret a lake. Like the first time, I've got so many examples here. I'm trying to find the first time that I fished the Gray Lake. It was early in the spring, and I took a look at the map and I decided what the best structures would be ahead of time. And let me zoom in over here and find it here. Oh, there's all right. Here's the Gray. I just want to and I plan on doing this. I'm going to take a lake that I've never been to before and just break it down and tell you what I'm looking for in the structures. Now, the first time I fished this lake, I picked out 3 or 4 structure areas that I wanted to check, and sure enough, one of the areas we found was just loaded. We had a blast. I'm going to try to find where that is now. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here's the area. I looked at this map and I was thinking about this lake, and I was like, okay, I'm fishing early in the spring. This lake has a good population of wipers, and I went up towards the headwaters, and this was the best big structure I found up in the headwaters. This is where you got the main channel over here, and you had a nice big side feeder creek channel coming over here. And right when you have 2 channels intersect like that, you're going to have a good structure situation. And looking at this Navionics map, and this Navionics map on this particular lake was pretty accurate. They did a good job mapping this lake. It's a true HD map. And just as the map shows here, you've had this 2 bars here on each side of this feeder creek channel. And we just found this whole break line area here was just loaded with wipers. We had a blast that day. But the reason I made that catch is because I did my homework mapping and interpreting, looking at the contour maps and coming up with places to fish, where I'm going to concentrate before I got on the water. So future videos will be just looking at lakes that are new to me and just show you how I would approach them and what kind of structures I think would be productive and how to work them. And if you have a lake that you want me to talk about or give a breakout as to how I would approach it and fish it, just put it down in the comments down there, and we'll see if we can do a video on it. Here's the video of Clinton when I was out there. I'll give you a quick fishing report. You're going to see the video coming up now. When I was fishing that lake, it was a slow day. I trolled that bar, this bar that, let me get Clinton back on here. Okay, based on past experience fishing this lake, I figure that the fish are usually in this area around this time of the year, and I'm pretty familiar with this bar. It's been mapped out. I made several trolling passes on it where I felt comfortable. If fish were there, I would have contacted them, and didn't get anything on the troll. So then I put my trolling motor down and I spot locked, which is anchoring, on a couple of contact points that are pretty close to each other off this one end of the bar. And the fish wanted a slower speed. I boated 3 wipers. I hooked and lost another 3 or 4 that I had on for several seconds. And I can tell they were wipers the way they were fighting. And I had another 5 or 6 fish that you could feel them just like bump the lure. So the fish were pretty inactive and neutral at best. But it just goes to show you got to control your depth and speed. And when you're fishing these structures, a lot of you that are trollers, that's how we learn our waters, is trolling. We learn our structures by trolling, but trolling tells us where to spend our time casting. And this trip here, all the fish I caught were on the cast. They wanted that slower speed control. And you got to put down you got to break out that casting rod and do it. Got all my fish on this trip casting, didn't get one fish trolling. But that's, once again, I knew the structure and I knew where to cast. And I was casting on structure on specific contact points where those fish would come up and hit that structure. So here's the video of some of the wipers I caught that day, and a link at the end of the video to see an earlier trip that we were out there this year. Thanks for watching. This is fine like a wiper. Pretty sure this is a wiper. Yeah, it's gotta be a wiper. Yep. past. This is a bar that I fished in the past that's produced wipers and walleyes for me. Hooked a big channel cat, and now just got this nice wiper. All right, let's see if there's a school here. All right, I'm switching to blade bait. This is a Dorado. I don't know, a little over between an 1/8 and a 1/4 ounce, I think. It's going to be a warm day out here. A lot of pleasure boats. There we go. Oh yeah, got a nice one here. Oh, he hit me at the end of the cast. Smacked it. That's a nice one. Fought good. I thought he was bigger, but catching him on this bar, trolling is too fast. These fish are neutral, not really hitting that hard, and using a chalk blade bait. That one was on a long cast. That was fun. Oh! I'm hooked up. Did it come off? Oh, it came off. Damn it. Okay, finished cleaning lake. Boated 3 wipers, which is fine. I usually don't keep fish, but I decided to have fish tacos tonight. So these wipers are excellent for making fish tacos. But I got 3 in the boat. I hooked another 3 or 4 actually casting that were on for several seconds and then lost. They're hitting real light today. I had another, gosh, probably 5 or 6 that just bumped the lures. So the fish weren't very active at all. They were pretty, negative and neutral. You get that bait right in front of them to catch them. But I was fishing structure. That's the important thing. I mean, these fish, you're going to find them on structure. And I was fishing that big bar, and all these fish came what I would call the contact point, 2 little fingers on this bar. And I just spent about an hour and a half casting there, and like I say, got 3 in the boat and lost several more. You can see some of these, this guy's a small one, but these 2 are pretty nice ones over there. But that's a couple hours out here today at Clinton Lake. No walleyes. Got 1 channel catfish, about 6 pounds, and that's it. But the key to this catch is structure and then controlling your depth and speed, and it was a fairly slow speed today to catch these fish. All right, thanks for watching.